being able to be calm and think in a calm mind is always one of the best things to be able to then overcome the challenges and the stresses that they come with.
Yeah, you know, it's your boy. Yeah. Alright, listen. I started out on the pavement. Bet you thought I wouldn't make it. Wondering why you ain't did it? Cause you only working that day shift. Yeah, success is contagious. We winners on regular basis. A lot of y'all getting mad, huh? Like how we do it from the basement. I ain't been getting no sleep. Lately I'm playing for keeps. Lately I'm out on these streets. Been talking to God.
And welcome back to another episode of the P.O.T.N podcast, a podcast dedicated towards all of you listeners, motivating you to go that one step further in your lives. I'm your host, Takura, and today I'm joined by an outstanding guest. He's an all-rounder. He's a business and banking graduate with a rich amount of experience. He's an MBA holder. He's a founder of a beard grooming startup called My Brother's Beard, which is it's attaining a lot of success in Africa at the moment, and he's also a professional photographer. So I'm really excited to interview and welcome Takura to the show. We share the same name, so it's an honor to have you on the podcast. And welcome to the show, Takura.
Thank you so much, Takura, for having me and at least giving me the chance to probably tell a part of my story and also help you and your podcast success as well.
Appreciate that. And it's all about like building up and helping each other progress. And I appreciate you giving your time to be here. And hopefully today we can share a lot of valuable information for the listeners.
Yeah, I'm ready to get into it, and I hope that the listeners also might either resonate with the stories, or maybe just some inspiration, or just get some answers for some questions that they've always had.
Absolutely. And without further ado, we'll jump into it. And the first question is, it's a bit of an icebreaker. Can you tell everyone a bit about yourself, what you're currently up to, what you get up to in your free time, and
All
where
right.
you're from? Sorry.
Oh, where I'm from? Yes, I'm from Zimbabwe. That's where I grew. That's where I grew up. That's where I was raised. So Harare specifically, and so what am I currently doing right now, and what do I get up to in my free time? So at least to answer that question, I've just recently completed my MBA, and so post that, it's mostly been looking for a job, and specifically in London, at least because going into the MBA, I just wanted to get some international exposure, and staying in London at least to get a job is my at least my target. So that's what I've been doing. But then I've recently been able to secure that job in London, so I'm quite glad. And then what do I do in my free time? In my free time, well, I think I've had an extraordinary class of humans who want to meet up and do events and explore London. So that's been happening quite a bit. And also, I just also enjoy my photography. I think we're on most days or every other second or third day, have my camera trying to see what I can capture with it. And that's what I enjoy. I also do enjoy watching a lot of movies and series, and being able to, I guess, rate the movies. And so I guess that's and the series as well. That's what I like to do.
Absolutely, man, and wow, that's a very solid introduction. Obviously, shout out to everyone from the 263 who's listening and watching this episode, and obviously, congratulations on completing your MBA and securing a job. That's very, very, that's in terms of life milestones and in terms of targets, those are two key milestones ticked off, and like London, like as you said, it's a massive place. You see anything and everything in London. Like everything is there, from cultural events to what's the what? I think you would bet you're better to help me describe this, but like the scenery photographers love to
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
So there's a lot of beautiful scenery, and obviously it's an international city, so you can bump into, I think, at least one person from each country in London. Like, I think I've only ever had that experience once, but it's a marvelous place to be.
It's interesting you say that. I hear less English when I'm in London, actually. Like, I hear so many other languages
Yeah.
besides English when I'm actually in London. And you're absolutely right. There are so many different buildings to take photos of, so many different unique things, art, and locations you can take photos of in London. Yeah, so I'm so far I am enjoying it.
Absolutely, man, and obviously wishing you many more splendid days there, because you're going to see a lot more, and you're going to grow to love the city, man. A lot of my on a side note, like, a lot of my friends are from London, so they've always got something positive to say about London.
That's amazing.
So we'll move on to the next question. I'm pretty sure you love this question because gives you an opportunity to express how much you love what you love doing. But can you tell the listeners what your passions are and what you love most about them?
Um, Probably I'll just circle it down to probably two main ones. The one which I mentioned is what I enjoy doing in my free time, which is photography. I think that's I can call it an escapade sometimes, and it's a great way to start exploring new places and different places. So I think photography gives you that avenue, and then being able to share your pictures to either the world or your social media followers. I think it's always great to do that. So that's one of my passions. Second passion, I think I'm always a bit of a nerd. So I'm also into just learning new things and just trying to figure out like what can I feed my brain with? So this includes just reading interesting articles or interesting new technologies or interesting new lines of thinking. Could be from authors I follow or something of that line. So I guess those are the two main things. There of course others, but I'll just boil it down to those two things to say though those are the things I'm passionate about.
Absolutely, man. And like, on the first one, I think it's a real it's it gives you the chance to express yourself, and it's a lot of people love photography, and you're feeding a demand for, because I think a lot of people take their time to see view photography and those cinematic videos as a stress reliever, as an outlet for the stresses they're going through. So in a way, you're indirectly helping somebody who may who may or may not get in touch with you, or like may see this podcast episode here that you do photography and want to find your work, and it can open up more doors than you can imagine. So, and the second one, I think that's a very, very valuable one, because as times are progressing and technology is advancing rapidly, and the introduction of the AIs, and obviously people are talking about NFTs now and AI, and all of that. So it's really, really important, obviously, to learn and keep ourselves up
Mm-hmm.
to date, because I can understand sometimes we want to disconnect from the world and
Yeah.
recharge our batteries, but at the same time it's like you're keeping up to date, and when you come back and you find out there's something new, you're not
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed by that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, we'll move on to the next question. And I'm pretty sure this one will also give you a chance to reflect and think more about, like, as a self reflection piece. But who would you say has inspired you and made a positive impact on you?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think I've had lots of inspiration just from family, the family that surrounded me, at least across all the years of my life. I think the reason I say that is because I'll give one example of at least my brothers. They were overseas, taking their studies there and then working there for a bit. So I always wanted to do the same thing that they've done. So So what that meant was I'm making sure that I'm always trying to be the best. I'm always trying to if I'm studying, I'm always sharing what I'm doing. I'm always saying, hey, give me some insight. How do I do this? This is what I'm facing a challenge in, and they're always there to give some advice. Same thing as my parents. It was exact same thing. Always keeping the path straight and narrow. African parents usually they are strict, but I think it was. I'm glad that I had that grounding and upbringing, and I think always having friends who do continue to challenge you, having a partner who also continues to challenge you. Are you asking the right questions for yourself? Are you so that you can discover some of the answers for yourself as well? So I think I've always surrounded myself with people who continue to push me. I know it's always quick to give the answer of a significant person who everyone knows, like a mask or whatever. But I think I think these people, my family, friends, partner, I think they've always just been people I think have kept me going and inspired me.
Awesome, awesome, man, and that's a great answer as well. Obviously, shout out to your brothers and your parents. Obviously, like for in those moments, you've had somebody to reach out to, and they've always been there, and they've given you like valuable information. And like I like that. I like the fact that you've been proactive about it. Like whenever you wanted to pick up something, you didn't just like wait for it to come to you. You went out and you
Yeah,
got it. And I know, obviously, shout out to the parents, man. Like I think if we reflect on obviously all the lessons and the things we've learned, especially coming from Zim, and obviously like the experience growing up, and
yeah.
also fun fact, we went to the same high school. Takura was my prefect when I was in. It was Form 1, which is like year 8, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So learned a lot from you in that short period of time. And I think a lot of the time, I don't think I've said this in other episodes, but I think for me, I'm grateful for Cal College. Shout out Cal College in Mashingo.
Shout out Cal
Z-
College.
for everything, like the good moments, the bad moments, the education, the being able to take care of yourself. um you learn those things at boarding school, because I don't think I'm pretty sure if you've had the opportunity to stay on campus at uni overseas, like how other students tend to carry
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
And some people can't cook, some people can cook. Obviously, this is an attack on people who can't cook, because you can always learn those things. But like I think the fact that Cow College, it gave us that extra experience, that hidden gem. Those hidden gems that when we've gone out into the world, you're like, I'm so happy. Mr. Odendal or Mr. Kamwaza, or whoever else taught us all those things and said all
All those,
those words. Yeah.
yeah. But we didn't cook though, right? That's a shout out for the parents.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
cooking.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Because I think, you learn from experience. So, the opportunities we get from our parents to say, okay, come help me cook sadza, or come help me cook whatever it is. When you make the
Yeah.
mistake, initially you learn and you become better. And now look at yourself, man. You're like, anyone comes over to see you as a guest, they're like, oh, wow, you cook as well.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
All right.
there's a lot of appreciation that goes into that. So it kind of leads into the next question, I think, which you probably have a great answer for as well. But can you tell myself and the listeners an experience you've gone through that has shown you that positivity still exists in the world and people?
Wow. That's also a very interesting and hard question. Hopefully, I can draw from an experience. Um, Positivity still exists in the world. Um, I think. I think. I think probably over the last year, or at least last 2 years or so, I think a lot of people everywhere have gone through different trials and different experiences because of the pandemic, either because you're staying alone or because you just shut out to the world. But I think that collective action at March 2020, the collective action that the world went through, and the collective commitment to make sure that everyone is safe, everyone is doing the best to stay sane, everyone is just coming together to say we're in this together. I think that showed a lot of positivity to of the world, and to say um, that it still exists globally. I think we were at a point of I think it was a point of inflection of everything that was going on globally. There were so many bad things, and then that
Hmm.
point was a inflection point to say, you know what, the world needs to come back together again. The world needs to have to work together towards a common goal. I think at that point, it did show that. Although the picture is starting to be a bit hazy, but I think I'm just glad that we saw that to see what is possible, and to see how the world can actually come together to try and bring positivity back into communities and the world in general.
Absolutely, man, and that's a brilliant example, because I think going back, if you rewind a year, like, we really started to see how the pandemic was affecting people, like obviously through social media, and obviously through interactions with
Mm,
people we care about. And
mm,
that point you mentioned, that it was a global effort for people to realize that, hang on, um, we're all in the same situation here. We're dealing with an unknown entity. We don't know the extent of its impact on us, but what we can do is we can prepare, and we need to obviously take action to
yeah,
to address the situation. So even with the lockdowns and the restrictions, I mean, a lot of people you know left their old jobs to go out and volunteer.
yeah,
And deliver parcels to the vulnerable and all that stuff. We saw a lot of that. And then obviously scientists were working around the clock to try and find
mm,
the right components for the vaccine,
mm,
which we have now. And it really shows you that, for all the issues that COVID and the pandemic brought, people are like, you know what, we can continue to power through. We can come up with solutions. Remote working, another thing. Like, a lot of people's businesses who they felt like were going to like diminish during the pandemic, some of them grew because of the
yeah,
fact that they were able to go remote. So, and I think a lot of the time now, that a lot of businesses are also at this current point, we don't know whether they're going to be open or not. But over the last year, the fact that people have been able to reopen, and they've
yeah,
been able to make sure their facilities are safe for everyone, that's really, really a step up, because everyone was like, this is a new situation, but
yeah.
these are new times, so we have to adapt to the time. So it's a good response and a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously we'll move on to the next question, and I'm pretty sure this one will also get you thinking as well. Can you tell the listeners how you've overcome challenges you faced?
Mm. I think that question goes back to, I think, being Zimbabwean one.
Hmm.
I think, or just being a foreigner in another country. Because one thing which I always tell myself is, you know what, there's no other option, right? Like, whatever is happening, you just have to get through this, because what other option is there right now?
Hmm.
So that I mean, it's because of circumstance that you think that way, because of your background that you think that way. That resilience comes about. So I think whenever I do face some challenges, that's the one thing, the one mindset I do have. And overcoming stress, it depends. Different people have different outlets. But I think just being able to think about, I guess, one of them is your physical health, just making sure that, because I go to the gym as regularly as I can. So at least that's a stress reliever for me. Running, another big stress reliever, which I guess I didn't mention about the things I do earlier.
Mhm.
So I guess from a physical standpoint, that's also something you have to do. And I think sometimes also tap into your spirituality, whatever that might be. But I'm Christian, so at least when you most people have the Bible app now, so following any daily devotionals is also quite important. Helps with overcoming challenges, calming down. I think being able to be calm and think in a calm mind is always one of the best things to be able to then overcome the challenges and the stresses that they come with. I hope this kind of answers that a bit.
Yeah, no, it does. It covers like I think you've covered three important areas. You've obviously covered the physical and psychological side as well as the spiritual side, because in all those moments like stress, when we're faced by challenges, stress is the one of the first entities that grows and starts to hinder us.
Mm,
And like you said, physical health and going to the gym and running is important because it helps the brain, helps blood flow,
mm,
and obviously like in terms of like touching in with spirituality, like you said, obviously you're Christian and I'm Christian too. For people who don't believe, they can meditate, or
yeah,
they can consult with people that they trust and open up to them and find out from them what kind of advice and what kind of learnings can they pick up from people. I think there's some social media personalities who focus on that spectrum, the
yeah,
likes of Jay Shetty and Sadhguru and Lewis Holmes. Like I think in terms of that, and even people like Jocko Willink, who's a former
yeah,
military retired military general, like you learn a lot from those people, because a lot of the time, even on this podcast, like when it comes out, the experiences you've shared, somebody's going to be like, oh wow, I'm going through this, and then they find this podcast, and Takura, you've come on and you've explained what you've used to get you through. Obviously it's not one size fits all, but it gives somebody a solution or an angle that
yeah,
they can work with until they find what works for them. So that's also like an inspiring thing.
yeah, yeah.
So with that, like from what you've the previous question, I think it's linked into the next question as well, and
Okay.
I think they're kind of interlinked. But what do you think is the most valuable thing about going through a failure?
I think there there's so many lessons that you can you can at least learn from at least a lot from failures. I think
Mhm.
failures are there to actually to. I'm not saying they're good, but then when it does happen, you actually get a lot of learning from it. If you are a person who is reflective, to think about, okay, what went wrong? What could I have done better? How can I change that for the future? I think that's the mindset to have when you go through a failure of in whichever aspect of your life that might be. I think it's always important to look back and reflect and say, okay, what can I actually have done differently? But then the most important thing is, what can I do now? Given that I have gone through this failure, because it's great to reflect, but it's also good um, to be proactive and what's next. What should I do? What should I do about this? And make sure that when a similar situation comes by, you're ready for it, right? I think that's what's most important um, about failure. And failure is, it happens. Everyone goes through it. So whenever you do go through it, just know that it's nothing new. It's you can get through it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very very true. You know, the mindset is important when you go through a setback. I think those that approach that you use, like, you know, what went wrong, what could have been, you know, what can we do better, and you know what's the next step now. I think that's also very very important, because I think, you know, it's important we don't go into a slump, and
Hmm.
we recognize the failure, but and obviously we give it some time, but as soon as we've reflected and we understand and we accept what's happened, is about obviously, okay, now we need to rectify the situation and move on.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it's very important, like what you shared, that it's not a one person thing. Like, everyone goes through something similar, so there is
yeah,
a reassurance and a calmness to that, because you know you're not the only one that's going to go through that. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. So it's about building up that character to say, okay, I've gone
yeah,
through this. What am I going to do? And if you bump into somebody who may be going through or would have gone through something you've gone through, be like, okay,
mm,
I've been through that. This is what I did. Depending on their situation, obviously you can advise, and you know it's ultimately like it's on us to get things done, but it's about us taking that first step to saying, okay, we've gone through a bad situation. Now it's time to fix that situation.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, we'll move on to the next question, and this one will get you thinking about things going forward. And, you know, what would you say excites you about the future going forward?
I guess there are so many angles to put this question in, but then I think the one thing I'm excited about the future for, I think it's the youth, man. Like coming from, I guess not Zimbabwe, but wider Africa. I think the youth are thinking in the right direction about where the where the continent should be going. I think that's one thing that excites me. So I know that there's a lot of very passionate African youth who want to see change within their countries and communities, and above anything else, that is what excites me the most. There's always the tech you can go to. There's always um, there's always the things that are happening globally, but I think the African focus of the African youth and how they're thinking right now to be change makers. I think that's the one thing that excites me the most about the future.
To make changes. Oh, right. Yes. And that's very true. Like, it does give you, like, it gives us a great ray of hope, because when you've got a lot of people, like a greater percentage of people, like above the majority thinking along those lines, then you know that we're going to start seeing change. Like, and I know, like, me and you both know that it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be gradual. And, you know, I think words of wisdom I can share, or both of us can share, is, you know, people, everyone, we got to stay committed to our achieving the target we want to achieve.
Yeah,
And obviously, like, think big picture, like what we're doing now, it's going to benefit us in the future. And obviously, the generations that are going to come after us as well. Like,
yeah,
everyone's going to
yeah,
benefit from the action we're taking now. So that's very, very important. And obviously,
exactly.
looking forward to obviously seeing and obviously also contributing in some small way in the future along
Yeah,
those lines, you know, making Africa a richer and you know, a more welcoming continent, you know, um, and you know, expanding business opportunities and building
yeah,
relationships. I think there's a lot there for us to work with, and we can do it. I know we can do
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's coming, it's coming. It's just a
it.
matter of time.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming for sure, man. You know, we'll work on our projects, you know, patiently and quietly, and build and hopefully start getting returns in due time. But obviously, like anything good, takes its time to, you know, to get to the
Yeah,
ready stage where it can start making a difference.
exactly, exactly.
So, we'll move on to the next question. And I think this question to be, it's somewhat interlinked to what you mentioned earlier, but it's more or less along the lines of what you do to stay focused and productive. So what would you say you do that helps you maintain your focus and keeps you productive when you're getting things done?
Um, the one thing is music, man. But if I'm really getting into something, yeah. So I have to like put that into context. If it's something which actually requires my thinking, I prefer silence over anything else. Um, so I can't be in a well, yeah, I can be in a coffee place, whatever, which I might not do so often. But if I am, I don't have any music. I'm just like focusing on the task at hand because I guess it's more of the thinking capacity that I need.
Mhm.
But also, there's some tasks that will require music, and I'll just put my headphones on and just get into that. And I'll probably go for hours working and hacking at that task at hand. So yeah, music is always good. Not too loud, just like something mellow. Yeah, and yeah,
Oh,
that's it. That's it.
all right, all right. That's perfectly fine, man. Music is. Um, I'm trying to think of a saying where they say music is a remedy to help us deal with a lot of things like and it's amazing how music has got that impact. Like it can help us focus, it can help us get us through like difficult times, it can
Yeah,
help us celebrate overcoming challenges and successes. So but also
yeah.
working in silence. I think I'm with you on that one, because sometimes you don't need distractions, you need to focus on the task at hand. And when you eliminate all other distractions and when you finish what you're doing and you go back and you look at, oh, wow, I managed to complete all of this without any sort of outside
Yeah.
distraction. So, I'm with you on that one. I think maybe at uni, for me to get things done, I always loved being on the floors where there was noise and there was activity, because when you try silent study at uni, you might try, me personally, like I always tend to doze off, which is good, because when you're trying to get things done, you shouldn't be dozing in it. So you should be around like activity and whatnot, but at the same time you could
Yeah,
be
yeah,
distracted. So
yeah.
it's a catch 22.
Oh
I'm telling you, man. Like,
man.
but we'll move on to the next question, and obviously this one, I think it's also another great reflection question. But when you look at yourself, right, what would you say are your strongest qualities, and from your qualities, which qualities would you like to pass on to the next generation, or teach somebody who's interested in learning from you?
Mm, I think self-reflection is always good. I think to be able to grow as an individual, you usually have to self-reflect. I think this just allows you to think about, okay, what's next? What have I done wrong? How have I contributed to this going wrong? Something else is I think learning to be comfortable with the quiet, learning to be able to just be with yourself. I think that's very powerful because at least when I've learned to do that or just learned to be comfortable in the quiet, you think a lot more, you think a lot deeper, you think a lot. And this is like not with music, just learning to be quiet, learning to be with yourself. It just helps a lot more with the self reflection, helps a lot more with thinking of what to do next. It helps a lot more with your thinking or your evaluation of scenarios, and it's always quite helpful. So I think if there was anything, I'd say some of my strongest qualities will be. I think that'll be it. What else would I love to teach someone who was interested? Yeah, just being calm, just being. I don't know. I like being calm. Yeah, that's also something that is that always comes in handy because you don't get too hyper and you remain focused on thinking clearly, right? Yeah. So I think those are just some of the qualities I can mention for now.
Those are some great qualities as well, man. Like I think what you said about like self reflection and being comfortable, and it's more or less like a sense like of self when you when that's self acceptance. You know, you accept who you are, and you want to understand yourself fully, and you give yourself the time to do that. Like
Mm, mm,
you take the time to obviously understand what's happening, what you're planning to do going forward.
yeah.
Think about yourself. You find ways. You learn stuff about yourself, like in those situations where you're like, "Well, I could handle all of these things in a different manner, a more conservative
Yeah.
approach." Or if people want to
Yeah.
go all gung ho, you know, they go all gung ho. But at the same time, I think I love the calmness bit because in times of great jeopardy and panic, like the only things that get people through is, you know, people who keep a calm head. Like I don't think there's ever been a situation where somebody is panicked or there's a panic situation and people have managed to overcome that by panicking even more. Like it's
Yeah.
like putting gasoline on a fire instead of putting water.
I know. I know.
So you know it's one of those things, but you know thank you for sharing that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening in and watching can take that on and use that going forward. But on that as well, like is there anything you're looking to learn yourself going forward, obviously as a way of like building yourself and improving?
Um. Yeah. The probably lot of things. I think. I think one critical skill which I really want to like grow and master is just being able to sell yourself. I think what I mean by that is if 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 you've spoken to someone who's from the US, I mean someone who's American sell themselves like it's no one's business, even if they can just I think that's a skill I want to get and being able to have that. I think as a Zimbabwean, there's this humility that you might have and say, you know what, my work will speak for itself. I think just yeah, just be like an American who sells himself there's like he's the greatest to ever do it. And then that's a powerful skill. I think I want I want to learn that. Not in a way to brag, but just to be able to 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 sell yourself the way an American does. I think that's one critical skill. Another critical skill, I don't know. I think the world's changing, so there are always new skills to get. But I think the skill to be able, I'm not saying it's a skill I want to learn, but it's well being able to absorb multiple sources of information and making a critical judgment for yourself and building a well balanced opinion. I think it's this is continuous because there's a lot more information coming out in the world, a lot more skills coming up in the world. So it's being able to absorb the right information and make a well balanced critical assessment of a subject, and then be able to apply it and be able to use that in whatever you're doing. I think growing that skill is something else I want to do. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. That's like you said, you know, selling yourself like how Americans did. Like they just have that X factor that helps them, you know, deliver or convince you to buy something. I think it's a lot on the personal side. Like they really sell their personalities more than they sell
Yeah.
whatever they're trying to get you to buy. So I think it's one thing we can all pick up on. And you know, thank you for you know sharing that, and it's enlightening. And like on the other one about learning how to absorb a lot of information, I think obviously you as a founder of a startup and a well versed business professional, you know that every day of your life you're going to be consuming some sort of new information, and that information is going to um, impact, like, well, not impact but influence how you make a decision. So I get you on that. I think it's very critical to be able to consume large amounts of data in a concise manner and make an informed decision, or a balanced decision, so that
Yeah,
you're not going with the hype too much, but at the same time you're looking at the numbers, and
yeah,
you're saying,
yeah,
okay, this is if it's the best decision for my assessment, then we have to go with that. So that's very,
yeah,
very good.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So, in closing, what inspiring words would you like to leave with the listeners who've listened and watched your podcast today, who are looking to improve themselves?
Um, I think I think anything I can say is sometimes it's not about having the right answers, but then probably having the right questions. I think generally you might not have all the answers to whatever's happening, whatever situation, whatever context. But then if you're able to ask the right questions, then that will naturally draw you towards the right answer, right?
Hmm.
So when there's a situation, it's about the right questions. Why is this happening? Where, how, those types of questions. Can we do it differently? Why has it been done this way? That's a cliche question, but um, how else could I have thought about this? I think being able to ask questions like that is always helpful, even for yourself. So always have the right questions instead of having the best answers, and usually that illuminates a path, the path
Awesome.
forward. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That is that's a great answer, man. I think I love the time. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. If you ask the right questions, you're more or less going to get the right answers. So, because sometimes somebody might ask you a question that's completely, um, it's an extraterrestrial question. I'll put it as, like,
yeah,
but it's you give the right answer to that, but for yourself, you're like, okay, am I asking the right questions? Am I how am I doing this correctly? uh why should I do it this way, or what can I do to make sure I deliver it in the correct way, that kind of a thing. So
yeah, yeah.
it's it's very, very important, and I think that's a lot of that's a very, very, very good piece of advice and answer
Mm,
you've given myself and the listeners, and with that,
I hope so, man.
that's all we can think about. We can think obviously positively about it, and hopefully it adds value, because I think that's the whole essence of it. You want to add value. You want to find ways to always improve. Um, and like you said, like, always have the right questions, because you're always going to get the right answers.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
on that note, I'd like to thank you for featuring today. And with that, we've reached the end of another amazing episode here on the P.O.T.N podcast. I'd like to thank my guest. You've been outstanding, Takura, for
Oh
joining. Thank
man,
you for taking the time to join.
and thank you for inviting me to this. I think this is awesome, and I really like the concept of your podcast, and I hope you continue to drive some positivity, some optimism, some tenacity, and some nobleness. I think it's really great.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. I appreciate you for that. And you're always welcome to come back. Um, and it's a, hopefully, I'm looking to keep this going. Obviously, long term.
yeah,
I think it adds it answers questions that people may have, and at the same time, we want to continue to add value to the world in some sort of way. So that's the whole essence of it.
yeah, yeah. Ah, keep it going, man.
We'll do my
Yeah,
best. So, with that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, um, Ghana, GeoSaven, and many of the other platforms that this podcast is on. I'd like to leave you all with the new sounds of Justin Vinyls and The Afrolution. Hope you guys enjoy the new songs, and till next time, be well and take care.
Alhamdulillah, he feel the love through my body. Stepping out the plane, touchdown in the motherland. Africa, I missed you. 6 years in the making. When we left, we were so broke, but now the world is for the taking. So yeah, let's get together, get drunk, stop acting right. Let's pop some bottles, switch some models, have a hella night. Safe to say the old me's still alive and kicking, but the new me got ambitions to do something different. How about we get together, calculate how we gon' start a fight, ignite a fire that's gonna end corruption overnight. See the youth and we've been charged with being the oversight. Like prisms, guard against decisions made against our children, the children of their children. Politicians tricking, got some tricks right up their sleeves, and man, it's sickening. I'm thinking that it's time to choose my voice. Easier said than done, of course, but do I really have a choice? Cause are we really? And now we really free to be we? Free to be we?
Music by Justin Vinyls and The Afrolution.